our extended post-game coverage, the fourth period. It's brought to you, as always, by First Community Credit Union, Skyly Heating Company, and Urban Chestnuts Zwickle Light. 8-3 the final score as the Blues fall to the Blackhawks tonight here at Enterprise Center, along with Chris Kerber. I'm Alex Ferrario, as we'll break this one down a little bit long. I like how Kerb showed up like my dad does, figuring out how FaceTime works, to where you've got the camera.
I didn't know we were starting right then and there, and then you jump in. I'm like, wait, am I staying? Because where you've got this thing set up, I come back to where my headsets are placed over here, and like I'm way in the back now on you.
You did the equivalent of when my parents FaceTime my daughters, and they don't know the camera's on, and it's like this on my mom. I'm like, Mom, back away from the phone. We can't see you. She pulls it away a little bit more, and then we finally get to that one. Curbs, a stinker of a game for this Blues team. You guys broke it down to perfection, but to me, Curbs, it felt like the team was just off altogether. And I think it might be just because of how the game was going, and it was hard to get into the flow of things.
I think if you're going to be kind of real fair, open, and honest about it, maybe one of the worst games from a goaltender perspective.
Yeah.
Honest to goodness, on both sides, actually, okay, than I can remember seeing in a long time. We've seen a goalie struggle, maybe get pulled, other guy comes in, maybe the game kind of gets away. But on both sides, Soderblom was giving up weird goals tonight as well. But, unfortunately with the way the game started for Joel Hofer, it was one of those games where sometimes the goalie, as we saw from the same goaltender, we saw Joel Hofer in Calgary give the Blues a chance to find their game. And in the vast majority of games with both Hofer and Binnington, the one thing that you can go back and look at over the last few years, these two goaltenders have given the Blues a chance to find a way to win. Look, they don't have Martin Brodeur-like numbers.
Yeah.
Okay? They're especially Binnington, like a fighting goaltender that in the end, you just want to be able to make the last save. And he's that kind of goaltender that doesn't care if it's an 8-7 win or a 4-0 win. Mm-hmm. He wants to win, and he's got that in him. This is Joe Hofer, who is just playing in game number 71, I believe, of his NHL career. He plays the puck well, made a mistake on that first goal. All right, Blues recovered. The second goal, just an unusual, I have to watch that one in so much slow motion to understand how that got through. That's from that angle with that size body of his on that post, that one shouldn't go in. That's 2-0. They came back and they made that one. But when Chicago made it 3, right, that's when doubt starts to creep into the game. And then when it was 4, it was hard. So the Blues tried something in the second period. They tried to at least see if they could change the game, because you still felt like the Blues were in the game. You felt like Soderblom clearly isn't great tonight either.
Yeah.
Just if you can get the game going. So they tried putting Binnington in. Right off the bat, he faces a breakaway from Reichel, okay? And then Dickinson wires a shot, that just gets underneath the bar. It's 5. So during the intermission, they come back out with Hofer. You heard Steve Ott say, okay, that's when you just reset, go back to where you're going, get the extra couple of days for Binnington, and then he goes against the Dallas Stars. But to me, look, as much as we have praised what's happened between the pipes more times than not because it's good, this was very honestly just a night where the goaltending didn't give you a chance to really get the game going. And, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. Nights like this, that's the most goals that Joel's ever given up in a game. The most was 6, which had only been one time in 70 games. 5, I just kind of scrolling through, might have happened 5 or 6 times, in that stretch. So it just happens. And unfortunately in the game of hockey where goaltending is that important, that's going to be the result there. I
don't know if it would have made a difference. Probably not. Are you surprised that Monty didn't call a timeout at all? No, because there's another aspect of this. And this is to me, getting into the sports psychology of the world, which we tend to do as we try to figure out what happened in a game like this, where sometimes it's just better to understand that every now and then there's just chaos in the world. Go to bed and just watch the sun come up tomorrow. Okay? All right? Sometimes we don't need an understanding. You're just going to go, whew. That was something else, right?
the reality of it is I do believe, though, that especially early in the season, teams have to find their way. And teams have to find their way on their own sometimes without the coach, right? And when this game was starting to get, once it got the 4-2, you're like, okay, who's going to take it?
Right.
Who's going to do something? Now, we're not in the locker room. We don't know if anything was said. We don't know who or what might have been said, if anything. Okay, but this is one of those games, and I think Joe referenced it in the postgame show, and he said, hey, I don't know if, this is one of those games where the coach sometimes doesn't even go in and talk to the team after the game.
Right.
You let the players go there and figure it out. When Steve Ott referenced a mandated off day in the CBA, based on schedule and all that stuff, there's a certain day. The days of a coaching staff being able to go, y'all were awful. There's no Herb Brooks, get back out on the ice, right?
Again!
Or come back in or over. In that last CBA, and honestly, I'm fine with this because, I have seen it go the other way. You might get one full day off here in a 10-day window, and I think it's only like I don't know if it's one a week or maybe just 2 a month. I can't remember the exact CBA number. But, they'll have plans with family, with whatever, and then a coach will throw a curveball at it, and it just messes things up. So part of the negotiation for the league to be able to get some of the business structure they want is stuff like mandated days off. That's what's going to happen tomorrow, and in the end, it is probably a positive for this team. But, no, I think sometimes, Alex, like Joel Hofer's got to battle through games like that too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were trying to let him do. But then when that fourth goal went in, they're like, all right, we still have a chance here in this game. I think after the fifth goal that changed, but you weren't going to – I don't think they were going to totally keen in the whole thing up and, put Hofer right back in after that fifth goal. So I think it's a growing game. I think guys like Mayu,
That's what I was going to ask about
and
next.
different guys have to learn to go through something like that. How do they look themselves in the mirror? How do they say, hey, we got to be better? How does the leadership of the team help them, grab them, do that kind of thing? I love the fact that with 8 minutes to go in the game, Nathan Walker still hit Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Jake Neighbor still leaving it all out there. It wasn't pretty, but there are, I think, some positive things in there. So at least in terms of a couple of those guys. And like I said, I don't know how you find a reason other than, like you're driving home and you look at the people you came to the game with and go, well, the beer was good. What did you have? What'd you drink tonight?
That's what the Anheuser-Busch...
get that great chicken sandwich over there at Farm Truck in the upper deck? Yeah, okay, that was good.
That's what the fourth period's for in the beer garden. You just go and forget about it down there.
I grabbed my Steve's hot dogs. I'm good. I got a great loaded hot dog, a couple of terrific Budweisers, and... Yeah, all right. See you Saturday night, guys. We're coming back. Happy hour starts at 5:30.
So I'll wrap up with this one, Curbs, because we'll hear from Colton Parayko and Braden Chen and Jim Montgomery on the other side as we're in our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways here with Chris Kerber. You mentioned Mayu. We talked about him on BK and Ferrario today. I know there's a lot of people in the comment section that are talking about Mayu. He actually played more minutes in this game than what he did versus Vancouver. I think he finished with about 12 and a half. Tonight he played 15:49.
Okay. Number one, how many of those were in the third period?
That's what I was pulling up as we're talking.
All right, that'd be my first thing there. Look, I think people have to calm down, right? I love the passion. I love the drive. I love the fire. I think this was game number 14. This was game number 12
yes,
of his NHL career.
Good math, Alex.
Game 12, okay? The Blues know that when they made that trade, they knew they were giving up a player in Zachary Bolduc that was coming off a good year, building confidence and developing to a good young NHL player. They also recognized something with Logan Mailloux. They recognized size, the right-handed shot. Clearly in the American Hockey League show a very good puck-moving ability, right? This was Game 12 in the best league in the world, right? And the only way you're going to go through it is you've got to play some minutes. You can't go through it playing 8 minutes a game when you're sitting there on the bench thinking, hey, I'm going to get a shift here, I'm going to get a shift there, and then the coach sits down. That messes with you. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Ian Cole. Ian Cole is a great example of something here, all right? Ken Hitchcock had a certain style for whatever it was. Ken Hitchcock didn't see something with Ian Cole, and Ian was one of those guys, he'd put him out there, and if Ian made a mistake as a young defenseman, he'd be back on the bench. Mm-hmm. It messed with his mind a ton, all right? and I'm going to give it kind of. There was one time where Ian Cole went in and requested a trade. Stayed off the public, airwaves. He kept it all in house. Like he was fantastic. Okay, they make the trade, knowing that Ken Hitchcock isn't going to play him much. They make a trade. They trade Ian Cole for Robert Bortuzzo. What does Ian Cole do? 24 minutes a game, 25 minutes a game, back-to-back Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? And then becomes a sought-after veteran defenseman now as he's been a journeyman towards the end of his career, right? Look, young defensemen have got to be given the room to make mistakes and grow. And you know who knows? Mike Weber knows that as well as anybody. We were talking to him, Mike, in Vancouver about, his early days. He knows that. They recognize it. But to get there, you got to play. So they'd like to see him playing 13, 14, 15 minutes a night. There's going to be some games where you're also going to protect. There may be some games where he's sitting in the press box, right? That may be Saturday night, and maybe Matt Kessel gets an opportunity. I don't know. Look, I do think, and the reason I say that, you see most teams at some point in time when you've got healthy players, and he's the one healthy player. Sundqvist and Toropchenko weren't. Now, they may be ready for Saturday, right? But you say, okay, he's been out now. We haven't played a game since his last preseason game. Let's try to get him in. Where's a good one? Okay, maybe there's a chance to put him in there. We've seen plenty of rookies get put up into the press box for a while. And it happens, from game to game. And then those are coaching moments, too. It allows them to catch their breath. This season comes at you fast. This season comes at you hard. And so breathe and relax. Yeah. Right? And, again, I've said this now. I think I said it on BK and Ferrario. Said it to a couple other people when I've been asked today. Remember when the Blues traded Shanahan for Chris Pronger? The pressure that was on Chris Pronger because he was a high draft pick. People didn't know much of him. And he was a young defenseman trying to find his way in the league. And you traded one of the franchise favorite players for him. I think he turned out okay. All right? Now, look, if Logan Mailloux develops, right, and turns into a solid top 4 guy that doesn't have to be banner, retired number caliber, but turns into the top 4 defenseman, that's what the Blues were looking for with him. So to me, relax, take it easy. It's not a question I want to answer all season long, and at some point I'm probably just going to look at you. We'll be on BK Yago next.
Yep,
right.
I'm with you
because it's not being a jerk about it. It's just going to take some time.
There's not much else you can say.
No, it's going to take some time. That you listen. And the other thing to keep in mind is, there's no doubt with the signing of Suter and Bukestad and what Armstrong's talked about, they've sped the process up. Remember, this was the year that Doug Armstrong initially said, I thought this year would be the toughest.
Right.
Last year's results with the development, too, of Holloway and Broberg, that showed that we're in a different spot. But you still look at the gap defensively there, right? And where the prospects are defensively. Tyler Tucker is just in his second full season now in the National Hockey League. Let that one sink in there, for a little bit as well. And then Broberg's just over 100 games played. Kessel, still new from an experience standpoint, right? Out of the 8 defensemen or the 7 defensemen that you have on the roster, that's 4 of them that are whatever Broberg's 100-something is or less. So there's going to be some growing pains and times, and it's going to mean your other defensemen are going to have to carry some of the load. But that there was nothing tonight like this. I don't think that I'm looking at any one guy, especially a young guy, in a scenario like tonight. Yeah. That's not how I look at it.
And to your point on how Mike Weber's viewing it with time on ice, he played 5:30 in the first, 5:19 in the second, and 4:50 in the third.
Right.
So pretty even with struggles that you may have gone through. He's still an even amount of ice time, and you're seeing it in every single period.
Now, if I put on my Kelly Chase hat, right? If I put on my Kelly Chase hat, and I'm going to, after 18 years of working with him, I think I'm going to be pretty safe in this moment here, right?
Know him better than anybody else.
Well, look, I mean, and this goes for Chicago, too. I said it with Joe. Nathan Walker hits your best player when you're dominating the other team. I don't care who you are on the ice. You go do something, right? It's allowed in hockey. They don't They don't destroy you. They don't suspend you. They just put you in the box for 5 minutes to catch your breath, right? And look, I've never played that role, and I've talked to plenty that do. I understand where they're coming from in terms of, the mental aspect that it takes. It's hard. It's not easy. I get it, but you're a young up and coming team. Have any of those guys in that second or third? Have they learned from Foligno in the last couple of years? That's when you want to see it.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're Tyler Tucker, if you're Mayu, if you're a young guy on this team, if you're a young forward, you go and you stick your nose in, right, and see, like you do it. I mean, he caught him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you get a free hit on Connor, like the Blues hit Connor Bedard pretty hard a couple times tonight, right? Blackhawks did nothing about it, right? That's something that's got to change.
Yeah.
That's something that's got to change in Chicago. Other teams are going to see that.
Yeah.
And they're going to know that. And they knew with Foligno out there, look at that lineup. Who's going to do it? Well, nobody stepped up to do it, right? And again, sometimes you just got to stick your nose in. I thought there's opportunity tonight for maybe some young guys to go, to heck with this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying do something stupid and two-handed guy across the mouth with your stick or something like that, but go and grab somebody. Take the instigator. Take the 2-5-10, do something. Line that guy up. We saw a couple opportunities. I mean, the hitting from Nathan Walker, he threw a good check into Bertuzzi in there. There's other ways to kind of get your team going into the game a little bit, and there's youth on both of these teams that I honestly thought we probably could have seen some of that tonight.
Well, they got a veteran team on Saturday.
I'll take my chaser hat back off.
It was a good chaser hat. Spot on with it. But you got a team that's not afraid to do that in Dallas on Saturday, so we'll see what the Blues come out with against the Stars.
Now, look, that's the other thing, too, is I heard Jim Montgomery talk to the team at practice yesterday when we're standing up where we watched the game, and you could hear Jim. He warned his team about this team coming in tonight, right?
Yeah.
He warned what could happen, and basically said, be ready for this because they watched the tapes. Joe referred to it tonight. It's there. No one needs to come. The Dallas Stars have been a good team now for a little while, and they're bringing in somebody. And if the Chicago Blackhawks could do this, you're going home going, oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those eye-opener games that get you ready for the rest of them.
That's exactly right. Because the rest of this homestand is big. Dallas and then L.A.
Yeah.
And then Utah.
Yeah. All Western Conference.
All Western Conference games, 2 Central Division games.
Yeah.
And I said it on our Offside Hockey show on Matrix Midwest. You got to make sure. You got to make sure that you're keeping Colorado and Dallas or whoever ends up in those top 2 teams. Colorado already was 7 points, right? A win tonight could have put you to 6. Dallas in second place already with 6 points. Okay, win could have had you tied with them in terms of points. You got to keep them close, right? You do not want to be, you don't want to be sham, looking at Secretariat, and like you're not even getting dirty because they're so far ahead that the dust is settled before you're chasing them, that kind of thing. So to me, you've got to. I really think part of the early season. From a fan watching standpoint, you want your horse close to these guys because you want to be closer to the pack there than in that mucky middle as this season goes along. Because at some point in time, the schedule is going to dictate play. Mm-hmm. The schedule is going to dictate fatigue. It's going to dictate injuries. It's going to dictate goaltending usage. It's going to dictate penalties because you might be, just a half second off, and instead of your feet getting there, it's a hooking penalty. It's going to impact games. And this early going while you still got energy and you're not too beat up, you got to keep the horse close to the front of the pack.
Yeah, well, horse racing reference there at the end of the postgame.
Yep.
Curbs nails it. Kelly Chase hat, horse racing reference.
There we go.
We're primed to go for Saturday.
Yep. Let's go Churchill Downs. And then we'll go to the Preakness, hit the Belmont. We got them all.
We got them all lined up. All right, Curbs. Yep. Well, we'll talk to you guys on Saturday night. Blues and Stars.
Sounds good.
There you go. Voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Appreciate him sticking around. Our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. We'll come back. We'll hear from Jim Montgomery and a couple of players down in the Blues locker room after an 8-3 final score here on 101 ESPN.
If you're looking for your next home, think of First Community. Our Smart Choice Home Loan offers a 30-year fixed rate of just 6.531%.
Welcome back to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut on 101 ESPN. It's time to hear from the head coach, Jim Montgomery, presented by Fisher Window and Door Store, offering quality American-made Marvin windows and doors. Visit their showrooms in Brentwood or East Alton, Illinois.
Well, before we close it down tonight, we'll have the final look by Pure Performance coming up in just a bit. But before we do that, let's head down into the Blues locker room and hear from Jim Montgomery after tonight's 8-3 loss.
Well, in the first period, we showed good resolve, came back twice. And then our habits just weren't consistent enough to play winning hockey. Can't give up that many odd man rushes. We can't give up that many grade A looks off the rush.
Do you feel like that was the case after putting together the 2 games you put together in a row?
Yeah, I thought that our game was building the right way in Vancouver, but our execution today did not match the Hawks' execution.
Obviously, not on the goaltenders, but you've been so good just an off night, starting with hope.
Yeah, I mean, our tandem is excellent, and some nights you're going to win games 2-1. We won in Calgary, we won in Vancouver because our goaltenders are excellent. Sometimes we need to win games 5-4.
What was the reasoning behind the timing of pulling Hope in the second period there?
I thought that we had lost our energy, and I just wanted to try and see if we'd get a spark.
And then the reasoning, putting them back in there, just let them finish the game out? Or?
Let them finish the game out, see if something could happen,
Do you even say anything to them, after, if a goalie gives up something that maybe they don't, or do you just leave them alone?
I just leave them alone during the game, yeah.
In particular, when you see the way he's handling the puck or maybe struggling with handling the puck, is that an indication that he's not completely on his game?
I think that's an indication for any player. If your decision making is not at the same level that you're used to seeing it, that it could be an indication that a player's not on his game.
Do you think it was any case of after the 2 wins, playing well, hey, we've got this thing figured out, we just need to go out and play the game, maybe let down a little bit?
No, I mean, we're playing the Hawks, division rival, our biggest rival, and I don't think that was the case. We didn't execute well, and that's just our mental sharpness was not great.
And I know it's easy to make the connection, but any reason you see about the way the teams played at home in the 2 games?
Yeah, I think, we'll watch the tape, we'll look back at it. This game got away from us because of our own habits and actions.
The odd man rushes against, is that just lack of connectivity with the 5 guys, or how does that?
Yeah, it's, reloads and gaps are a big part of how we want to play, and the reloads were not consistent, and that makes it hard on the defenseman.
It's time to take a look back at tonight's game with the final look.
Driven by Pure Performance. Only stop for all your aftermarket vehicle needs.
So our final look brought to you by Pure Performance, going back to this one, and as Curbs and I broke down, just like Curbs and Joey broke down, it's one you just move on from. But some numbers in this, it was just a rough night for your goaltenders, rough night for goaltending in general, and the Blackhawks just capitalized more than what the Blues did. In terms of scoring chances, the Blues had their plenty of scoring chances. In fact, through the first 2 periods, the Blues were out performing the Blackhawks in scoring chances, but it was the odd man rushes and defensive zone turnovers that the Blues had most in both categories on, and it was an area that the Blues just really could not come back from. I was curious because I do remember last year that the Blues went through this a couple of times where there was 8 goals scored on them, and so the one that happened was the Washington Capitals on November 9th, and that was 2 weeks after they had 8 goals scored on them against the Ottawa Senators, which was at the end of October 29th. And then we all know, obviously, what took place later on in November when Jim Montgomery was brought on and Drew Bannister was let go. But couple of games back then that got to that, and you heard Jim Montgomery mention it. You know, you get 2 on and 1 off, and the routine, the style, the identity that the Blues are searching for just did not show up in this one tonight. And it's an area that I know Doug Armstrong has talked about, that in the past, you know, what gets frustrating are when games are close and then they get too far out of hand, and that's this one tonight. But I don't know if it was just everybody as much as it was just a rough night for your goaltenders, and you take it, you move forward, and you expect your goaltending tandem, which has been so good for the Blues over the last few years, rights the ship when they take on a team like the Dallas Stars. But it's a tough matchup, and as the teams in the Central Division continue to win, you don't want to get too far behind in this Western Conference, because, of course, the Blackhawks win tonight, the Mammoth won against the Calgary Flames, so you have to keep pace in the Western Conference. But good news, though, 3 more games against these Western Conference teams on home ice: Dallas, and then LA, and then Utah. That game on Saturday against the Stars, 6 o'clock, with a pregame skate starting at 5 o'clock, right here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. Once again, a big thank you to Jim Hewer for our help up in the broadcast booth, Jordan Deacon down in the Blues locker room, and then, of course, Grant Francis back in our network studios. I'm Alex Ferrario. Blues fall to the Blackhawks 8-3. Let's all do ourselves a favor and just forget this one ever happened, and we'll talk to you on Saturday for Blues and Stars right here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN.